r/AskReddit. Men of Reddit, what instantly turned you off a woman? When she thought the appropriate response to me saying something she didn't agree with was a slap across the face. She had gotten into a fight with her friend because of something she was completely in the wrong about. I made the mistake of calling her out on it. Oh, I have a strong policy on this. A girl gets one warning not to face slap me again. If it ever happens again, I walk right the fuck out of the situation and never speak to them again. I don't give a flying fuck if it's in jest or not that hard. I had one relationship where I literally became a black and blue punching bag, and another where the I'm joking slaps left my face sore for days. They both started out playful and quickly progressed to abusive, and that's not a fucking game. I don't hit you in the face for any reason. You do not hit me in the face for any reason. I don't give a shit how angry you are. Had a girl I dated, and we were pretty into each other. One day she got extremely upset with me for saying something pretty innocuous because it reminded her of something from her past. I said I'd remember not to bring that up in the future and apologized, though that didn't seem to suffice. It appeared I was to be punished or treated poorly for it. I asked if I could get a pass on this, as there was no way I could have known what I said would have bothered her, but no. I asked her if there was anything else that really set her off like this, and she said yes, though I'd have to find out on my own. I asked if there was anything I could do in the future to avoid upsetting her or causing one of these situations, and again she angrily said no. I was getting a little perturbed by this point and asked if she was really blaming me for saying something harmless that I had absolutely no idea would set her off that way, and she said yes. So I tried to reason with her one last time. So you're telling me that there is a minefield out there, that you know where all the mines are, but refuse to tell me, and that if I step on one of these and it goes off, it is my fault and I should be punished as a result? Indeed she did. We were supposed to go out for supper, but I told her I wasn't hungry, got in my car and went home. If you're going to create the path and conditions of failure for our relationship, you can trust that I will find the shortcut every time. My second date with this one girl was going to a Christmas party of mutual friend. After we were there for a little while, she started talking to this other guy and they went to some corner where no one else could interrupt them and talked for an hour. When they were done talking, she immediately told me she was leaving and up and bounced. Totally turned me off, so I didn't talk to her again for a while. A month later she reached out and was like, "Why haven't you called me?" I was kind of dumbfounded that she would actually ask. I didn't have anything else going on at the time, so I figured we could try again, but the Christmas party left such a bad taste in my mouth I couldn't even feign interest. This is what my coworker did to me. Asked me out. We went out. She danced with other dudes and then came back to the table with 2 drinks and set them down and started drinking. I assumed the other one was for me and took a swig. She looked annoyed at me and asked me if that was mine. Then she looked exasperated and came back with another drink and explained to me she was trying to pick up this dude and took her 2 drinks over to some guy's table. I gathered my shit to leave and she stopped me before I hit the door, saying that if this guy didn't want to take her home she would need a ride. Still, I just nodded and left. Stopped talking to her altogether. Later on she wrote me a note saying stuff like, "Why haven't we followed up? And I thought we liked each other," and so on. She couldn't understand why I lost interest in her. Instant clinginess. We went out, had a great date and some light fun at her place. She called me the next day while I was out with a friend. I didn't answer. She then called me over and over again until I finally answered. We are talking about 10 to 15 calls in a row, and when I answered I asked if anything was wrong. Since she kept calling, she said no and said she just hates texting and prefers talking on the phone. I had to calmly explain to her I was out with a friend and if I don't answer, I will call you back. But calling me over and over makes me think it's an emergency. We tried one more date, but at that point it was awkward and I was no longer invested. Also had one girl text me over 130 times in one day after one date. It was worse because we worked at the same place, albeit different departments. It surprised me in both cases. I thought they were out of my league. She told me she was going after her ex for a certain amount of money. That on its own was not the problem. The money she wanted was the $500 in shared living expenses she contributed over the 7 years they were together. She wanted every penny back. She thought that as long as they stayed together, then the contribution made sense. But if they broke up, then she got to live for free, retroactively. Food, mortgage, utilities, all of it. So she was contributing maybe 25% of the overall living expenses, but because he made 80k/year and she made 40k/year, she shouldn't have to pay a single dime of those shared living expenses over the years they were together, unless of course they stayed together. If she had done some calculation to figure out how much of that $500 went toward the principal on the mortgage and wanted that back, I'd have agreed 100%. But no, she expected her man to pay 100% for all share living expenses. I had been dating her for a couple of weeks and broke it off a week or so later. Edit. Sorry guys, that's $500 per month over 7 years. So she wanted $500 x 12 x 7 equals $42,000. TLDR. Girl talks about herself constantly. I was talking to this girl I met on Tinder for about a few weeks or so. Our conversations were typically one-sided. I would just ask her questions about her, get to know her a little bit. Our conversations would usually spark from there. But after a couple weeks, I realized she didn't know a thing about me because she never asked. Like what my major is in school, why I pursued that degree, what my brother's name is, trivial stuff. I then told her I forgot my suit at the dry cleaners one day and had to wait until the next week to pick it up. I told her it was for an interview. Instead of saying something like, oh, what's your interview for? What company? You know, usual curious questions. I had mentioned it was for an interview quite a few times, just like entice her to ask me about it. But then she proceeded to tell me a long ass story about how she forgot some shit at some store and had to drive back there to get it. I really got annoyed and just left her alone. She always made things about herself. Edit. So the interview was for an engineering design internship this fall. I don't know if I got it yet. And I was able to pick my suit up the day of the interview, on Monday. The interview went well, I think, and hopefully I'll know something at the end of this week. We literally met each other 2 days ago, and I wouldn't text her while I was at work the following day, so she had a meltdown and her mom started texting me asking what I did wrong. Didn't even know this girl at all. Edit. I was 19 at the time and this girl was 18. I work with her at a retail store. Anyways, she messaged me on a Monday mornings like 7. We started talking and whatnot, and she FaceTimed me out of nowhere. So we feed for an hour or so, then I had to go to work. Later that day she came and sat with me on my lunch break and the vibe was off. I didn't really feel a connection, so I just was being more of a friend. The next day a coworker comes up to me and says, so I hear you and are talking? I said I don't even know her last name. Coworker starts laughing. The girl texted me later that night and says, so I guess this means we are talking, since coworker knows Day. I don't even know your last name, and that set her off apparently, cause 5 minutes later she replies, but it's her mom asking what I did wrong, because the girl is having a meltdown. I met her Monday morning, and by Tuesday evening I blocked contact. When she got drunk, turned super angry towards me, then defended herself, and didn't remember it the next day. I hate people like this. There was a woman in college I was a casual friend with. She was cute and bubbly, which would normally be right up my alley, but for some reason, my attraction to her was met at best. At a party, she decides to entertain her friends by humiliating me. For some reason, she comes up to me and insists that there's a cat in the bathroom and that I should come play with it. I don't believe that for a second, but she asks me to humor her and go in anyway. So, to humor her, I go into the bathroom. As she shuts the door behind me, I see her turn to a friend and burst into laughter, shouting he thinks there's a cat in there. I figure that was really fucking rude. but whatever, since I'm in the bathroom, I might as well use it. As I'm washing my hands, I hear her shout through the door that one of my friends wants to show me her breasts. As this is another obvious and bizarre lie, all I can muster in response is okay. The bathroom door opens slightly, and some jock-looking dude lifts up half his shirt to show his nipple before closing the door again, followed by howling laughter from that group of friends. I guess they thought I was a clueless enough loser that I had fallen for it or something. I don't know what her motivation was, as I didn't know any of these friends of hers. I just know that she was being an absolute jackass and that my opinion of her had plummeted. A couple of days later, on the college campus, she sees me in passing and comes up to me acting all bubbly and friendly like normal. Confused, I mentioned that she had been rather mean to me a few days prior. She quickly replies, "I'm a mean drunk, you can't hold that against me." I just said okay and never spoke to her again. Anyone who uses alcohol as an excuse to get away with shit is a terrible person. I was dating this girl who seemed awesome and everything was going well. After a few weeks, I introduced her to some friends, including one female friend. You can see where this is going. Everyone liked her and all seemed well, but as soon as we left, the girl I was dating started interrogating me about my relationship with my platonic female friend. My friend has been with her boyfriend for 9 years, but this woman was convinced that something romantic was going on between us, no matter what I said. It escalated to the point where she said I had to cut the friend out of my life completely. She's been a close friend of mine for 7 years, so that wasn't happening. After about an hour of fruitless arguing, I ended things. I don't think I've ever gone from being super attracted to someone to beyond done with them that quickly before. Fun times. Desperation. It's a common internet meme for men to be desperate and scare women away. Let me tell you, it happens the other way as well. I met a girl online who was pretty, had a good job, kind, generous, and was overall a solid catch. The problem she had was that she was way too desperate to find a partner. I'm not even saying she was the kind of girl who had the relationship mapped out in stages, that is date 8 months, married in 16 months, kids by 24 months. Those girls exist too. But this girl was just desperate for a partner. She was pursuing the idea of coming home to her partner, cooking him dinner, making him lunch, sitting on the couch in sweats eating popcorn. Basically, she was in love with the idea of being in love. All those things are great goals for a relationship that you can aspire to over time. Not so much something to pursue or dream of on the first or second date. We were in college together. She was pretty with long red hair and dressed like a model. She liked to take walks in snowstorms and sing old Irish songs. She would wink at me while we were in a crowd when she was bullshitting someone else. She would sometimes ask me, weirdly, if I thought that she were a bad person. I always said, no, of course not. Then one evening as I was standing with her in line at the checkout desk of the library, she referred to the classmate in front of us as a dumb N-word. It felt like the blood instantly drained out of me. I looked at her and she winked at me the old way. I stuttered and said that I had forgotten one last book, but instead of climbing the stairs again I made my way through the library and out into the night feeling soiled by her words. I ran through the dark to my rooming house a mile away but still felt bad. We never dated again. Why did you do that, Hope? Why? Man, some things never change, do they? Back in the 70s when was a college student I dated for a short time, a girl I secretly called Crazy Karen. She loved to fight and would start an argument over anything. And I mean an why thing. I once asked her what she had for lunch and she went off on me for being nosy and controlling. When I told her I didn't want to see her anymore because all we did was fight, she looked exasperated and said sweetly, "Oh, honey, that's what people do when they're in love. They fight." Okay. Now, here's the really crazy thing about her. She was always eager to have sex, and even though she was on the pill she was terrified of getting pregnant. She confided to me that as an 18-year-old girl right out of high school she had gotten pregnant and had an abortion, so her fear was understandable. She told me, "I swear to God, if you get me pregnant I'll sue you for everything you own." I was a junior in college, working my own way through school, living in a one-room converted garage. I said, "Okay, all I own is my bicycle. You want to go ahead and take it now?" She explained that her parents were major donors to the Republican Party in our state, and as a reward, the summer Karen graduated from high school she was selected as an intern at President Richard Nixon's house in California, the San Clemente White House, where he spent the entire summer that year. While there she had an affair with one of the president's aides, a married man she referred to as the Colonel. It was the Colonel who got her pregnant and arranged for her abortion. One day she showed me a photo of her and the Colonel standing on the beach together. It was Alexander Haig, who went on to become an Army General, NATO Commander, Chief of Staff for President Ronald Reagan and US Secretary of State. I had a girl I'd been dating come over to my house after she had been out with some of her friends. I told her that I had been up since 5 AM for work, helped someone move after that, and that I had to be up early the next morning, but that if she wanted to come over for a little bit before she went home, my place is on the way to her house. I said it would be nice to relax for a bit. I had been up for about 18 hours by that point. I was pretty clear that I wasn't in the mood for sex, and in the past I've stopped whenever she's told me she wasn't in the mood or that she didn't want me doing something. I'm not someone who wants to force someone into doing something that they are uncomfortable with, not just because it's wrong, but also because I can't enjoy it if they aren't enjoying themselves. Apparently she isn't like that, because I can't even remember how many times I said no, not tonight, I'm not in the mood, I'm really tired, and asked her how much she had to drink. A woman wanting to have sex with me is great, but this was actually pretty messed up. She kept just saying I'm though, when I said I'm really not in the mood, and I was not hiding how uncomfortable I felt. Not the worst thing in the world in this context, but still a big turn off when someone can't take no for an answer, regardless of their gender. I met some girl through online dating. In the first half hour she disclosed her bi-weekly income of $270. She lived with her parents at 26 and kept her weed and vibrator in her safe. After speaking terribly loudly about not being able to do hard drugs because of a heart problem, we left the bar to grab food. I didn't know you could actually chew food with your mouth open that far. It's like Steven Tyler eating out a tub of cottage cheese. She had a Caesar salad. Then, there's a 3-year-old behind us with his mother, and I interacted with him, and she started going off about Trump and disability colored with swear words. My mother is disabled from brain cancer and received disability for a long time. The swearing in front of a child blew my mind. There's a time and place for everything. I ghosted that one. Left that date with her suggesting we do it again. No fucking way. I remember pulling up to the bar and seeing her walking to the bar. I seriously almost left just because of the way she moved. I should have stood her up. I was at an event with 3 of my pals, 2 being male, the other female. This female friend is really gorgeous, but it has always been just admiration for me. So she gets tipsy during the event, makes out with 5 guys, discovers that the last guy she kissed didn't even bother to know her name, and freaks out. I mean, literally freak out. She's a 25-yo, and she let go a long, high-pitched screech when reporting this to us. It fucking hurt my ears and everybody stared at us like, what is this woman doing? Then when I nonchalantly said easy now, she screamed some more and just started slapping my shoulder like a 5-yo on a tantrum. Then she said things like, I hate socializing. Then my friend said something about Disney princess, and she was like, and what's wrong with wanting a Disney princess romance? I was like, Jesus Christ, Mary, and motherfucking Joseph. Thanks God I never even bothered to try anything. Met a woman online. She was overweight, but overall I thought she was cute. Wanted to give her a chance. I messaged her, and we hit it off. very good vibe, and we agreed to meet in a few days. Well, it turns out the woman I met didn't look anything like the woman I was speaking to. She was thin, gorgeous, and really in shape. She explained that she used her old pictures to see who was really there for her and not her appearance. Something about that rubbed me the wrong way. I knew what she was trying to do, but at the same time, I don't like being lied to at the start of a relationship. Edit. I say a few days. We met roughly 12 days later. Here's a story to share because I want to say it. Bet no one responds, but it's related. I have a coworker, female, who is thought of as attractive around the office. I mean, she is attractive. When I first started here, she definitely caught my eye. As we both recently moved to an area near each other in downtown Chicago, and our office is in the suburbs, we have begun carpooling. Well, when it started out, we kinda were just doing it to save time, gas, wear on cars, and our sanity sitting in traffic. But we became closer and started sharing information about our dating histories. This was okay when we started carpooling because we were both seeing other people. Well, we both broke up with those people at some point, but I found someone very quickly, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm 100% all in this new relationship, barring learning a few things, but I don't think anything could change my mind, unless she doesn't want kids in like 2 to 3 years. Since then, Carpool Girl has been dropping hints that she wants to fuck me, sending me rap songs with lyrics about being side hoes and riding dicks, but not telling anyone. Wanting to play video games alone at my house. It's okay that she caught feelings. Happens. What's not okay is this. 1. She's not talking about it. She's low-key making it awkward, so I've been deflecting for a bit too. She seemingly caught feelings because I was taken. 3. She's my coworker and isn't approaching this in a way that makes it so I could be honest about a relationship. Like, we are at a giant Fortune 500 company, and if the #METOO movement comes to my office and I slept with her, I'd panic about being fired just cause. 4. She knows I'm Catholic and a one vagina guy and did this anyway. I find my girlfriend attractive because of her morals and her extreme kindness and compassion. The lack of compassion and understanding demonstrated by Carpool Girl, the lack of even realizing people can be attracted to someone because of their emotions and instead basing shit on bodies and whether or not it would be wrong if we hooked up. Well, it just demonstrates that Carpool Girl is a child using a child's philosophy. Looks like I'm wearing headphones in the car for a while. Don't discuss feelings with coworkers or even with girls who aren't taken. Jealousy can kill a friendship. Definitely being overcautious, but I'm putting together a delicate thing, a sustainable career and a relationship, and Carpool Girl seems to be ready to shake the foundation of those things for kicks. The big turnoff, though maybe a bit lighter than some of these other stories, was the amount of time she needed to get ready to go anywhere. We were only seeing each other lightly for a couple of weeks. A few roommates and I figured we'd do a quick run to a refurb store to get some things for the house. She was hanging out, so I asked if that was something she wanted to do. 2 hours later she's still in the bathroom putting on what I'd call a natural look, with no end in sight. I left her there. She got a ride home. She was already a boring person, no aspirations or goals, hobbies, or general interests other than a few bands she was into. I tried to get her involved in some of my hobbies, but that didn't amount to anything. Afterwards she told some mutual friends that I broke up with her because she didn't put out. Was on a third date with a girl, had a nice meal, didn't exactly have too much of a conversation going. Anyway, fast forward to leaving. I was going to get the train home as I had a return ticket, but she offered me a lift in her car. Driving along the motorway 20 miles per hour over the speed limit, on her phone trying to get Google Maps to work as well as change songs on Spotify. I told her to give me her phone so I could do it. She got defensive with me. When she dropped me off, she asked why I was being so anxious in the car. I said I was fine and got out. Blocked her and never spoke to her again. I know our conversation wasn't going great at the restaurant, but I also don't want to die in a car crash. Tap. Had clicked really well getting to know a blind date that a mutual friend set up. We chatted for a few days before our schedules meshed for an actual date, and we both went into it pretty hopeful because of how well communication had gone. Well, on the date, she was a complete 180 from how she had presented herself. Not a positive word could come out of her mouth, no matter if she was speaking about work, friends, family, politics, oh boy, on a first date, anything at all. Tried to steer the convo to other topics or more positive topics, but she always found her way back to bitching about everything. I packed up shop and took her home mid-meal. Never spoke to her again. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. Please leave a like and subscribe.